Welcome everybody to the After Dark Show. I'm Don Rogers. This is a special pre-recorded edition of the After Dark Show because Spingen and I are up in the mountains on some much-needed time off. But tonight's episode, nonetheless, is going to be absolutely amazing because I have with me once again. He is the founder of the Forbidden Knowledge Network. He is the host of Forbidden Knowledge News. He is a documentarian. He has the Forbidden documentary, Occult Louisiana, and he has upcoming Forbidden documentary, Doors of Perception, and somebody I'm actually honored to really being able to call a friend over the last year, Chris Mathieu.
Hey, Don, thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to getting into this discussion with you.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And again, thank you for doing the panel the other day. That was an absolutely amazing conversation as well. Like it seemed like an hour and whatever just flew by in that whole thing.
Yeah, man, that was a great discussion. Thank you again for having me on that one.
Yeah, no worries. So I guess I wanted to get into your documentaries at first, and I guess the first question is like, what made you make the leap from podcasting to documentarian, and like what led you down to these documentaries that you've made?
Oh, it's a long story, but I'll try and condense it as much as I can. Whenever I started Forbidden Knowledge News, I'm sure I told this story. It started as a Facebook blog, then evolved into the podcast. And I was going through a massive spiritual transformation from 2020 on. And this included immersing myself in psychedelic experiences. And it was through one of those experiences I came out and just had this overwhelming, just knowing that this is something that I had to do, that I wanted to do. So I just got started, and I didn't know what really to make the first film about because there's so many topics that I cover that I love so much. So I just decided to go to my roots and make a film about where I grew up in Louisiana, about all the high strangeness and incredible history. So I did an experiment. I'd never made a film before. I have experience editing with the show, of course, and very limited experience with any other type of film production. But I just kind of threw myself in there, and I was very pleased with the way everything came out. I learned a lot from what I did, and the next film, really taking what I learned from that first one and implementing it. And this one, I believe, is a world's better, and the quality is so much more amazing. And I learned a lot from it. I'm very excited for it. But basically, it was inspiration from my spiritual altered states experiences, meditation, and the incredible synchronicities that would follow in my everyday life that would point me in the direction of things that I am currently doing. So that's how that got started.
No, and I love that backstory because it just flows so nicely. It seems like you were really set to do this, and it just seems like this is your path right now, and this is where you should be. So again, thank you. I know I've thanked you for your work and your contributions before, but no, it really is benefiting the community.
I hope so. And I do this because it is something I'm passionate about, and it is impossible for me to hold back profound information that I know. And the only best way that I know to share it is just to present it in my own way. And that would be now through the, podcast and now making films. So I hope people get something out of it and maybe learn a little something from it. If not, at the least be entertained.
Absolutely. You said in Occult Louisiana you went back to your roots, and again, amazing film. If you haven't watched it, go watch it on Tubi. It's great. What is the premise for the next documentary that is coming up? Like, what does that go in? What avenues does that explore, I guess?
So the upcoming film, which I'm hoping to have our pre-release downloads available, Our special edition version should be available by the end of this month, and we're hoping to also have it submitted within a month, so it'll be on streaming platforms within, I'd say, 90 days, hopefully. But we will definitely have the film completed and ready for you guys to check out and download for only $5 from Vimeo and from our website. But the film is called the Forbidden Documentary, Doors of Perception. I'm going to keep it on the theme of the Forbidden Documentary series, and because that really can cover everything that I'm interested in and that I've been covering over the years. But this Doors of Perception is going to specifically focus on contact experiences and the connections between the different modalities of contact. And I focus on near-death experiences, dreams, altered states with psychedelics, and alien abduction and contact. And I really break down both sides, the positive and negative. We have Karen Wilkinson telling her story for some of the negative stuff, as well as a couple of people that we interviewed near Skinwalker Ranch. And then we have people with very positive, beautiful experiences, but it goes deep into the psychology of these experiences and some of the possibilities with our consciousness and the powers of our consciousness. And we explore how these experiences are profoundly connected. And we really ask the questions of what are these intelligences? What is the purpose of this experience here? And how we can learn from these contact experiences and even small synchronicities in our daily life, and maybe to help us understand how the mechanics of this etheric reality affect us and guide us through, basically.
Well, that sounds absolutely amazing, and I am going to hit you up for a pre-order because, again, I can't get enough of your stuff. You came out with a lot of footage from what I read in your social media. Now, is it still going to be one film, or is it now split into two?
It is now split into two. We will be doing Doors of Perception Part 1 and 2. It's just such a huge topic, and I did get a lot of interviews and a lot of footage for it. And I really want to do justice to the information that's been collected so far, and it will not fit in one 90-minute film. And the first film is actually probably going to be closer to 2 hours, as well as the second film. Just so much information that we're trying to put in there because this is a huge topic. This is the essence of paranormal and metaphysical studies. These questions right here: the afterlife, aliens, extraterrestrials, ghosts, spirits.
I totally agree, and I was just writing myself a note before I forgot the wording. I think what you're doing here is a lot of the beginning steps of decoding reality and finding out the real physics of this universe. And for that, again, thank you, and cannot wait for these films.
Right on. That's what my focus has really shifted on, is the biggest pictures and the deepest layers of paranormal and metaphysical experiences and consciousness, how our consciousness is connected to all this, the powers of our consciousness, the psychology behind these experiences, and how much our perception affects all of these, and how all of these paranormal experiences, no matter what they are, no matter if they are some external physical being projecting itself, or some sort of thought form or egregore or etheric non-corporeal beings, whatever it is that's communicating, it does pass through the filter of our perception. And that also heavily affects the nature of the experiences.
No, I dig that. And since we're right there on the concept of perception and how things are in this reality, I know we've done panels on this. I'd really just like to jump in with both feet. Do you think this is a matrix reality or a simulation?
Well, I honestly have considered everything, and I still I have more questions than answers about any of this reality. But I have considerations that I share with people, and love to get as many different perspectives to consider as possible. And I've gotten tons of them. But I do think that what this reality is couldn't be sufficiently described by a simulation, because I think it's so much more, but we're getting close. Our understanding, it correlates with where our level of technology that we're at, really, and we're comparing our reality to simulation, to what we are interacting with our highest form of technology, because essentially etheric energy, magic, high technology, it's all the same thing. Once we gain an understanding of some of the concepts, it just becomes a form of technology. So, if this reality is dictated by some form of extremely advanced technology and it is somewhat of a simulation, I could say that that's a probable answer, that we are immersed in some sort of experience. And the question is whether this experience is for us, whether we created the experience or God created the experience for us to have. Or the other consideration, is it a trap? Or we in some sort of archonic loose harvesting form where we're constantly recycled back? I don't think that's the way that it is. I think that it's closer to the first thing that I said. I think we're here to experience, we're here to learn and grow. And the darkest of the dark, the worst experiences we have, the most negative energies here in this realm are for us to learn from. Unfortunately, some people gravitate to the darkness and they get lost in it. They become part of this programming. And again, it may be a harsh way to learn, but I think it's still a way for us to learn in the only way that we probably can. Because if we are just etheric energy born out of pure love and light, and that's all there is outside of this realm, outside of this experience, at least supposedly where we come from, then there's nothing we can learn from that. We already have that love experience. But if we want to experience the opposite, and I think that would, the purpose for that would be to grow and be the most efficient and the most loving and powerful creator beings that is possible, because we've been immersed in this and we've learned from the bad and we embrace the good. So that's where I'm at with what this is. And I think that I'm leaning close to what we experience as paranormal activity, what aliens are, what extraterrestrials are. They are parts, essentially, programming as part of this matrix, and they can manifest to us as whatever, either whatever they want us to be, or maybe it's whatever we need to experience. Maybe the only way something can be really hammered home, if we need to learn a lesson, maybe the only way to do that is to have this very profound alien abduction experience or paranormal experience that really gets us thinking in a different way. So again, I think it's all part of our experience, and the way I currently lean is it is all for us.
I I would agree with that. And I just want to skip over to something. You said something on the panel show when we were on this subject too, about not being like not supposed to know it all, not supposed to know how all of this happens. And I have been going through this entire remembering experience, as Stephen calls it, or awakening, as other people call it. And one of the things I asked for during a QHHT session is I asked for my higher self to explain everything to me. And I'm going to tell people, don't, because it's very disenfranchising and very hard to deal with. Because and I'm not saying I know the secrets of the universe, but when I was able to rationalize how and why we're here, I was like, well, then what's the fucking point?
Yeah.
And it took me a while to realize, oh, I'm here to have my best experience, right? This isn't just an exchange of energy and some frequency that's coming into a biological vessel, and I'm just here. I'm supposed to be exactly like what you said. I'm supposed to be having the most positive and putting out the most positive experience that I possibly can during my existence here.
Mm. It's funny that you said that you had asked this intelligence to basically lay it all out for you. I did the very same thing, and I think I did it more than once during very powerful psychedelic experiences. I would ask my guide, I just want to know everything. Tell me everything. What is the secret? What am I doing? And this is the greatest part. They would go ahead and show me everything. They'd tell me everything. But then at the end of the experience, he'd be like, you're not going to remember a damn thing when you go back. And I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
And then as soon as that it would all just melt away. Everything that this, the intelligence just shared with me, these profound secrets of the universe, bloop, gone in an instant. It'll be like, you'll remember whenever it's time, but it's not time yet. I'm like, shit. So, yeah, I think there are things we're definitely not supposed to know. And it's unfortunate that we have these parasitic rulers that are trying to crack the code of reality. These extreme Silicon Valley nerd dork technocrats that are trying to destroy our reality. They don't know when to stop. And I think this is the problem that we're facing right now. This is what has brought us to the point where we're at, is we have to be satisfied at some point. I mean, we seem to be, with the limited technology that humanity has been allowed to have and use, it's enough for us to thrive off of. And I know that there's hidden technologies that we could have more of, and it could benefit humanity. But until we actually have that beneficial technology, do we really need to be trying to communicate with Cthulhu and open up wormholes to different dimensions and try and get these entities here across these dimensions? I don't know. I don't think that's a good idea.
It's nothing I want to look at right now. Like I've seen a lot of sci-fi movies, and it's like, no, that's good. I'm good. I don't want to do that. Um, and I also just want to say, like, I totally agree with what you were saying, and I think what's happened with this system, whoever is controlling it, they've manipulated creator beings too far and pushed us too far, and that's why I think this remembering or awakening is actually kicking off the way it is like the pandemic was the breaking point where you've just pushed too far and people start to figure it out.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's spot on, that we are really pushed to have this awakening triggered. And whenever I first started to become aware that our reality is not what we were told, one of the first kind of puzzle pieces that I started to look at is, some of the people that in the higher levels of the parasite class, that at least ones that you can point to. But I think that if we go too far into that and we stop focusing on the real things that we need to look at that can actually make a difference in this reality, like the things I was talking about on our panel the other day, how to self-heal, how to take care of things in our own lives, and the power that brings. It really doesn't matter who's, at the top pulling the strings, and how deep some of these conspiracies go, because I've found the more you look into them, really, the more layers they have, and the less you're really gonna know. But I think I went off track from what you were asking there. What did you ask again?
Oh shit. Um, oh, do you think like as creator beings, they've went too far, like
Oh,
manipulating us as
yes.
creator beings.
So, yeah, I think that they do not have the power to create as we do. I think that they are in such a dark, dense level of consciousness that I don't think it's possible. You know, maybe they have some kind of dark creativity in some way, but I don't think it's connected to the same benevolent source that most of us are, and they have been using us to create their reality for the longest time. But it seems like there's a greater force that's kind of bursting through right now, bursting through the collective consciousness and causing people to become aware. And once you get that awareness and once you see the direction that things are supposed to go and how people are supposed to act and the level of deception that we've been immersed in, there's no going back. You can't really turn around and say, well, I just want to go back and eat my matrix steak. And I'm sure there are people that do that, but no one that I've known who's been revealed this information has been able to go really back from it. And it probably backfired on them.
I get that. I've actually Spinja makes the reference, like my awakening. I don't know if you've seen the episode of The Simpsons where they realize Homer has a crayon in his brain and they take it out and his IQ shoots up like 60 points.
Yeah.
I'm like, God damn, sometimes I wish they just put the crayon back because it, yeah.
Yeah, well,
But
what I've come to know is when it comes to like, you know, this information and what we do, I just can't go too deep. I can really immerse myself in something, but once I get to a level to where it gets redundant and there's no more productive doors to open, then it's time to really hang it up, maybe go back to it later. But that's why I focus on so many different things, so many different aspects of our reality, is I don't want to get lost in any certain one, because I've seen people that have, and they get sucked into a certain rabbit hole, and then the worst case scenario happens where it turns out that all the research they've done wasn't even true, or there's a level of deception there, and then they have to backtrack and start all over. So there's some, dangerous areas you can get into if you go too deep. But I really encourage people to peel as far back as they possibly can without getting to that layer of madness, because
I
knowledge is power.
I think that's really good advice. And like I said before, something I almost fell into until I had my moment of realization. Before we get too far away from the perception end of things, well, I already know the answer to this. How do you think our energy that we project or emit affects our reality directly?
It's everything. I think our state of mind, the way we understand things, our theological views, our emotional state, the relationships we're in, the way we treat people, this is all going to dictate the nature of metaphysical and paranormal experiences. And this is not only based off of my experiences, it's based off of the hundreds and hundreds of guests and alien contact abductees and other experiencers that I've interviewed. And for me, whenever I first started to do consciousness exploration and immerse myself in these altered states, it was very apparent that I was in a state of mind that could bring very negative experiences. And it did. And I had to work through that. I had to, quote unquote, face the demons before I could get to experiences that were very positive. And same thing with people who have these, quote unquote, contact experiences or paranormal experiences. First of all, if your paranormal experiences are triggered by trauma, which a lot of them seem to be, people at a very young age, they have a traumatic experience and it triggers this new awareness, an opening in their perception, and they are able to perceive things differently. And this often includes these metaphysical intelligences. Now, when they present themselves, if this person is in a state of fear, it's going to pass through that lens of fear. It's going to pass through what they believe an alien is, what they believe a ghost to be. If they're religious, they'll probably think it's a demon, and that's going to automatically fuel that fear perception with the experience. And the folks that start out having these very positive, benevolent experiences, I've found have done a lot of work in their lives. They've taken care of a lot of things, and the experiences present themselves that way. Also, with near-death experiences, is very interesting. I've heard a couple of experiences where the people, they had no spiritual beliefs. They may have not done some great things in their lives, and when they had that experience where they were in a coma or they had an accident and they actually died, they had this near-death experience. These people who had no spiritual belief or maybe had not so good experiences in their lives, they experienced this hellish sort of realm. But what I've found, I believe in almost every case that I've heard, is they will start out in this hellish realm. They will be shown the error of their ways, but then they will be pulled out by this benevolent light, this intelligence, and they will be reminded of, why they should be doing good things and why they should be a good person. And they are brought back from that with a complete shift in perception, and they are mostly changed human beings. And I also have to look at the secret space community, the MK Ultra type of SRA people who have been abused and are still having these very negative gang stalking, negative extraterrestrial encounters. I think that's by design. Unfortunately, these people are victims of some sort of very traumatic abuse, oftentimes by powerful organizations or people. And this really sets up a foundation for a lifetime of negative experiences because it plants that in there, and they're very rarely able to get out of that and experience the positive side of the metaphysical. And this goes so many ways. It can be applied to rituals, to magic, to people's intention with these magical experiences and rituals and spells and things like that. Whatever they're intending to work with will have an effect on the outcome, and it goes very deep. But yeah, it's definitely heavily contributing. Our perception heavily contributes to the experience.
I believe that, and I've seen and spoken to people that are in the super soldier programs and secret space programs, and most of the listeners know that's what kicked off my awareness, right? And thank fuck I was able to pull out of it because it was scary there for a minute. But like, no, I can see how it is a dangerous place to get stuck in because I almost did, and that actually brings me into like, do you think, or what is your understanding? Do you think that our consciousness can exist in other realities?
Oh, 100%. I am totally down with the multi-dimensional possibilities, even multiple realities unfolding at the same time. And I've experienced seeing this through psychedelic experiences, meditation, where I saw different versions of my life unfolding and me as doing different things in different times. And this is one of the most fascinating aspects of the nature of our reality, is a possibility of this. And I've talked with Anthony Peake. He wrote a book, Cheating the Ferryman, and this is such an interesting concept that, first of all, the slightest change of our perception can put us into a completely different timeline or a different reality just by feeling a different way, just by thinking a different way. and all these realities are unfolding at the same time, and you wouldn't even notice that you're in a different reality. There may be slight differences. Things will be slightly better. Things may You may notice just weird, strange little differences. But in extreme cases, for example, I had Dr. Bruce Goldberg on a while back. He claims during meditation he was able to slip into a different timeline where his wife was completely different, had different hair color, and their house had different layout and everything like that. And he swears he did this through a meditation session. Another one of the extreme cases, I think I might have told this one. I know I told it on my show before, but this young lady, and I apologize, I forget her name. She was driving in heavy traffic, and she looks up ahead, and it's packed, but she sees that there's a wreck, and this car flips and it lands right on top of her. She says she knows she died. She knows her neck was broken. She knows she's immediately transported into this different realm, surrounded by benevolent light beings that proceed to tell her, no, it's not your time. You have to go back. So she's immediately thinking, oh, I'm going to end up waking up in a hospital in a coma, with a broken neck or something like that. No, she's zapped back and she's in her car on the same freeway, except there's no traffic at all there. She's perfectly fine. And she has this like renewed sense of life and awareness, and things are just much better in her reality after this. I've experienced pretty interesting changes just from going into deep psychedelic experiences and doing some work in there and then coming back, and it seems like things are a little better and I view things better. And it's amazing how much our perception can change our reality, can manifest things. And it's sometimes just as simple as, oh, we didn't notice that before because we weren't looking for it before. It's always been there. But now that we had that shift, it's like, oh, there's something new, even though it's always been there. So I think it's a combination of all those things. I think we are changing reality. I think we are jumping timelines. I think it's all unfolding at the same time. And based on where we're at, we're going to either go positive or negative or sideways timelines.
I actually agree with that. And as you know, because we've talked about it on your show, I've had several NDEs, and it was actually a recent guest that explained some confusion in my own life. He explained that when you have an NDE, you're quite often, like you said, collapsing timelines, and you'll run into personal Mandela effects where, like, the wife's hair color would be different or something is just slightly off. Like, I can reference things I know happened to my mom, and she's like, no, it was blue. And I'm like, no, it was red. And she's like, no. And like, I know what I experienced, but she sees it, and I seriously think it's just these minute details that when I died, I skipped over to the next timeline because it wasn't time yet, but it was green, not red. Right. And it's those tiny little things, but I've actually experienced it myself.
These concepts can be terrifying at times when you think about it. Oh my God, I'm being transported into different realities. But if you go a little deeper, it's the most natural thing that we experience here because we've always done it. It's always been a part of our reality. We just weren't aware of it before. So it's a scary new concept. But if we do it all the time, every second, just by our decisions and things we do, really, there shouldn't be anything to be afraid of. And I don't think that we should be afraid of anything at all anyway. I think that this experience, whatever's beyond it, is going to we're going to continue, whether we're going to be popped right back into another reality or we're going to experience the afterlife. Whenever you get to those points, like in your near-death experience, and you get close to source or you get close to the divine, you get out of this dense reality, even out of the lower astral realms and into something higher, you feel that. You feel at home. You feel like that is your home. That's where you belong. And everything is just perfect there. So I think that, it's all part of our experience. And even during our regular lives, we can get close to that just by wanting it, just by practicing. Just try it. Just, try meditation. Don't recommend psychedelics to anybody, but if that's your thing, try that. There are, go take a walk in nature. There's so many different ways to connect with that energy that surrounds us. And it's a reminder. It's like, oh, okay, well, there's nothing really to worry about.
Yeah, I agree with that. The more of a positive outlook I've been having on my life lately, the easier it seems to be to traverse. I absolutely agree with what you're saying.
Mm. Yeah, and that's not to say that messed up stuff isn't going to happen, and it's just it's going to be the way you react to that stuff is going to be much different once you start getting on those wavelengths. And it's just like you said, it's much easier to navigate this stuff.
Yeah. I just want to shift gears here. We're about halfway through. We started off talking about the community, and I'd love to get your take on something called Project Oblivion and whether or not you think that there are individuals either being controlled or inserted into this particular community to cause disruption, chaos, and basically discredit it.
Yes, yes, and yes. I think there's varying levels of this, though. Of course, at your highest levels, you have your talking heads, Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, and the UFO community, Lou Elizondo. Whatever you think about these people, they're gatekeepers. They are 100%. They may not even know that they are working for the system, but they are. And they may believe that they are doing something good for the community, but they're still working for this system, whatever the intentions of the negative system is with all of this. Then you have the people who are propped up and they may not even know why, but they get a new YouTube channel and they're talking about specific things that the system is like, okay, bring that out more because that's some bullshit that'll, fester in the community. So these people, the algorithms prop them up. Their YouTube channel blows up somehow. They're being, front page everything. Social media is going crazy. They'll probably be asked to speak at conferences and write books and things like that. And like I said, maybe these people know, maybe they're approached, but I really think a lot of them don't. I think it's something that's happening with the algorithm and in the background. And then you just have the people who enjoy the attention from, information that they find. They do the surface level research. They see something that looks interesting and fantastical to them, and then they put the information out there. But then again, these people are going to be propped up, and their videos are going to go viral. I don't scroll through. The only thing I use social media for is to post and promote my shows. Every time I go and just try and see what's on there, it's like the most ridiculous conspiracies and theories. And some of them are old ones that are being rehatched, but the information isn't even accurate. So there's a lot of just bad information. There's a lot of bad actors. And this is all intentional. This is because of the awakening. It's because, they have to throw all these limited hangouts out there so people are confused. And most people are confused. But again, the answer is simple. The answer is, yes, be aware of all that stuff. But you can't go out and try and fight it. That doesn't work. You can't go out into the street and expect to lynch politicians and global leaders and pedophiles. You have to stop giving them your power. You have to stop participating with what they're putting out. You have to stop buying their products, eating their food, and start focusing on building your own stuff that is better than their shit. And that's what I think that's what this whole time period is about. It's for us to build our systems that outperform the old systems because everybody's going to automatically see, oh, this is beneficial to humanity. Oh, this is real entertainment. Oh, this is real information. I'm going to go to this and stop paying attention to the toxic BS that comes out of the matrix system.
I totally agree with that. And that goes into a whole other thing about, I don't know why this theory developed in my head, but I think the sociological construct that we currently live in and basically is, as a human race, have become reliant and compliant on, at least in North America, is the trap. Like, we have gotten so far from our creative abilities, our abilities to build our own homes, sew our own clothes, cook our own food, like walk our own damn dogs. Like, this is getting to a point of compliance that is frightening. And I think you're absolutely right. We have to turn back kind of the other way and just like, no, okay, I know how to build a house. My wife knows how to spin yarn. That guy knows how to grow potatoes. We should all talk,
That's
right?
it.
I think you
Yeah,
hit it dead on the note.
community building is the way out of this, but it's really like I said, it's the most difficult part because they got us, man. I remember just 10, 15 short years ago, I was relying on everything. I thought I was going to retire from my corporate job and go to work every day, come home, have a couple of beers and repeat, and that was going to be my life. And, people are so programmed to believe that, and they're so programmed to believe they have to rely on this, that there is nothing else, that if you don't rely on daddy government and what we're providing for you, you're just going to die. You're just going to roll over and die. There's no way to survive. But we're starting to see, and it's difficult, but you take that first little step and you see, well, oh, look, I can plant some tomatoes and they actually grow and taste good. And you just take those small little steps and keep building and building and keep pulling out your attention and your energy from the system in very, very small ways. Just buy organic, stop shopping at certain places, stop watching certain things on TV. It's, these small incremental changes that we make, because in my experience, the more I would make these small changes, the easier it would be for me to let go of something else, to let go of the next thing and be like, oh, I've been going without this shit. I don't need this either. And that's how we win this, is checking out of it.
Yeah. And the health changes alone are phenomenal. Like, Steven's been helping me change some of my nutrition. I've been doing a bit of it on my own. But I do have a funny footnote to what you were saying, because right now I still am in the 9 to 5 grind, same as Steven. But I choose to drive a septic truck every day just to remind myself that the system sucks shit. So
Right on.
that's where I am with that whole thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's some big changes happening now, and I have a lot of concerns about what's happening with this administration, but I will say I will remain cautiously optimistic, because there are some incredible things that are happening right now that have never happened before in this country. And there's some revelations coming out about our government spending and some of the corruption. And whatever you think of Trump or the administration, these things are coming out right now, and there are big changes happening. And like I said, I understand the sleight of hand. I just did a show about it yesterday. I know there's some things going on in the background that most people aren't paying attention to that they really should. But I will take advantage of the positive things that come out. And I think it's an opportunity, at maybe even a temporary opportunity, but it is an opportunity nonetheless for people like us in the United States to really start hustling and take advantage of some of these things and growing our own systems, because some of the things that are coming out will give us a better opportunity to do so. So far, like I said, I will be very cautious and I'll keep a close eye on everything, but I will definitely take advantage of the good things that are coming out. And I think now is the time for people to really just take advantage of starting their own everything.
I think that's a great message. Like, you keep receive the gifts, but remain discerning about where it's coming from.
That's
You
it.
always keep an eye on who's giving it to you and why. I think that's good advice.
Yeah. And,
Uh,
if they're presenting, better health care and smaller government and less corruption, those are good things. Those are things we can accept. Before it was like, oh, you're either going to get a platter of shit or a platter of shit with a strawberry on it. Which one do you choose? So you have to take it for what it is. It's actually good things. So we have to say this is different and maybe see what happens.
I agree. Before we go, I have one more subject I want to pick your brain about, and we live in similar climates. I'm in Alberta, you're in Colorado. Lovely views, similar weather. Have you guys been getting this crazy ass fog, and what do you think that is?
So, all right, I'll give what a couple of my guests have presented, and I don't remember who exactly it was. I'd have to go back and listen, but it was a show I did the other day. But I have not seen any fog here. Maybe I'm not out at the right times. But I do know a lot of people who have. I know people who've actually gotten sick from it. So I really wish I could remember who the guest was I had on the other day, but I think it was Tim Kelly. Okay. Tim Kelly. And we were just discussing some of the current events that were happening with all the drones and crazy UFO and fog that was happening a few weeks ago. And by the way, is this still a thing? Are people still experiencing the fog stuff?
I can speak firsthand today. Well, here in Alberta, anyway, it's at least once a week, if not 2 or 3 days, where it is whiteout level fog. I was driving, as I told you, I had to go into work for a bit today. I couldn't see 5 feet in front of my truck for
Mm.
10 miles.
So it's
It is
speculated that
insane.
he speculates that it's some sort of nanotechnology that binds to our biology and basically has triggers, just like supposedly what's in the vaccines, that can be triggered remotely to cause sickness, death, mental health, all of these things. It's supposedly a dirty, underhanded way to get people to ingest some of this nanotechnology. Now, again, this is not verified. There's no proof of any of this. There are people who, excuse me, are doing getting samples and doing tests. I haven't heard any results come out so far. I'm not sure if any of those results would ever be allowed online with the censorship that's occurring. But it's a possibility. I would just say that don't go play in it, and just be cautious of any kind of anomalous things like that. But I really think that we have more protection against some of this stuff than the lizard people, would like us to believe. I think that basically it may sound woo woo, but what we put out as our energy is a deflector for a lot of this negative shit. And not to say you're just going to go out there with a positive outlook and be able to deflect anything that comes out, but I do think there are elements of that. And I think that if we're healthy, if we take care of our bodies, if we're not going out there and huffing that stuff, I think that we're going to be okay. And also, there are ways to clean this stuff out of you. We're discovering more and more that a lot of our disease is parasitic based, a lot of cancer. The ivermectin's been a thing lately. A lot of people, the fembendazole, according to many people who have done this, it works, and this is a great way to get rid of some of that stuff. But that's not the only way. There's plenty of natural ways to get rid of this. I highly recommend the guest I just mentioned, Tim Kelly. He wrote a book, How to Heal Yourself Naturally. He even talks about how to regrow your own teeth, which is incredible. And a lot of it has to do with structured water and the type of water that you're drinking and the amount of sunlight that you're getting. these very simple things. I mean, it's a combination of things, but they're very simple, everyday things that you could be doing to clear out some of the nastiness. He claims it'll even clear out some of the waxing shit that you get in there just by practicing some of these everyday things. And there's also minerals that you can get. I know the colloidal silver is in there. He's got a whole list of incredible things that he uses on a daily basis to not only flush that stuff out, but try and prevent it from happening. So there are ways, man. There's ways to get around that.
I think there is too, and like I'm even of the belief that if you have certain agreements with your body knows to reject things. Like you can get
100%.
that in tune with your inner self. Like,
Yeah.
no, if you sense danger, please get rid of it. Like you can have these talks. This is your universe. You're the pilot. You can say like, no, please reject that. And I'm not saying it's 100% effective. This is a material realm and shit is going to happen, but you can also reject things. I've mentioned it on my show before. I broke 2 of my teeth several months ago. It hurt like hell for a couple of days, and I went into a deep meditation, asked my body like, look, what can I do to make this stop, because I did not have the finances to get it fixed, and I got a message to stop consuming as much sugar as I was. I agreed. The next day my teeth stopped hurting, and
Yeah.
they have not hurt since. Still broken.
Yeah. Yeah, sugar is one of my final frontiers. I've cut it out almost completely. I have maybe 1 or 2 Red Bulls a week, and that's my vice right there, the evil Red Bull. But once I cut out a lot of sugar and, really limit myself, that's huge, man. Not only for your teeth, but your body and everything. So diet's a huge one. Once you start getting cleaning yourself out and going down that road, it also affects your perception in huge ways, very positive ways.
I totally agree. And I'm actually going to have the guest that Steven had on last week. Her name's Emily. She was talking about sugar being a programmable solid.
Interesting.
And it was a fascinating conversation. Basically, like, you and I know, because your wife is into energy work, as is mine, you can inlay energy into certain things. And she was alluding to coding certain things into sugar crystals because they're. Is there any reason for sugar to be that big unless it's to be something to be digitized or programmed into it?
Right. Wow, that's crazy. I mean, you
Yeah.
look at the studies that have been done with water and frequency and vibration, and you can cause these positive changes in the water. You can also cause negative changes in the water based on frequency. I'm sure they have ways of inserting all kinds of negative energy and frequencies into all the shitty shit that we eat.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's what I said on your show, is like, because I drive for a living, sometimes I have to eat at a gas station, and it's base proteins like jerky and peanuts and things like that. And even that, when I walk into the gas station, I'm like, I am so sorry. And I'm literally apologizing to my internal self for what I'm about to do, because I know it's terrible, but we need to eat. Right.
Yeah, right on. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm hoping that
Uh,
that some changes will be occurring here in the United States with the food industry. I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm still going to have my own sources for my food, but that would be a good thing, man.
Absolutely. And we were actually blessed. Yeah, we're stuck in a single wide trailer right now, but our landlord was pretty cool and let us tear up half the backyard to put in a garden. So
Oh, nice.
we were
Awesome.
very blessed. She was very understanding. I was just like, look, can we grow our own food in the backyard? She's like, I don't want you to rip it all up. And I showed her where we're going to square off, and she's like, you're good. So that was very beneficial. We actually got some of our own produce this year too.
Right on. Right on.
Uh, I just want a footnote too, to anybody who heard the weather control stuff that we were talking about, and those crazy people with their tinfoil hats. I want you to look something up. It's a Disney cartoon from, let's see, I just got to get my date right here. 1959, and it is called The Future of Weather Modification, Eyes in Outer Space. You're going to want to have a look at that if you think what we were talking about was bullshit, because they've been putting it right in our faces. And another Disney one was even in the 90s, a cartoon called The Tailspins. It was mentioned in not one but two episodes about cloud seeding. So this has
Have you
been
ever
right
heard?
in your face.
Have you ever heard the work of Jim Lee?
No.
He covers geoengineering, weather modification. He's the deepest researcher that I know. His information is top notch. I've had him on my show a couple of years ago. I've been trying to get back in touch with him. I don't know if he fell off the face of the planet. He's been on Sam's show too a couple of times, but if you look up Jim Lee, weather modification, it'll pull up his website. He's got all the patents, he's got all the receipts. He does the best research into some of this, and according to him, some of the technology they're using for this stuff is beyond imaginable. So yeah, that shit's real.
I'm going to be looking that person up. I've got research to do. That's why Spinja got me into the whole having a notebook with me, because it's in one ear and out the other. So before we wrap up here, do you want to tell everybody where to find your documentaries, where to find all of the books? Because I know Corey has an awesome book. That guy made me read. Okay, I'm just gonna put that out. Everybody has heard about me being grade 10 dropout. Corey Hughes made me read. So you have to check out his work too. So before we go, Chris.
Yeah, well, so you can find all of our content on our website, forbiddenknowledge.news. You were mentioning Corey's book. You can pick it up there, or you can go to coreyhughes.org or Amazon. That's A Warning from History. Excellent Kennedy research in that. Our first film, The Forbidden Documentary, is available on Tubi, Roku channel, a bunch of other streaming platforms. Podcast is available, Forbidden Knowledge News, on all podcast platforms, Rockfin and Rumble. We have our social media, Facebook and Instagram. And the upcoming film, Doors of Perception, we'll have our pre-releases ready to go by the end of the month. If you'd like to pre-order, email me, forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. It's only $5, but we will have it on Vimeo soon, so you can just go to Vimeo and rent it there or purchase it, and you can purchase it from our website as well. And thanks you again, Don. This was fantastic. I always enjoy catching up with you.
Again, Chris, thank you so much for coming on. Thank everybody for watching. I always enjoy our conversations. And like I always say, if you can, please go outside, because it's a lot better than sitting in front of a screen.